Hello, hello, my friends. I am Pat626, and I regularly host Subculture Shock Sundays, 10 p.m. on Twitch. And pretty much almost right from when I came back in 2017, I started getting some great music from Amaranth. And from that allowed me to make friends with Ken Magerman, who many of you know as from Amaranth, and if you don't know that, you definitely know Sounds and Shadows, which is what Subculture Shock wants to be when it grows up. So, Ken, welcome back. You're actually the first guest to make a repeat into the virtual studio.
Nice, beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm proud to do that, although I think it is weird that you're implying that Sounds and Shadows has grown up in any way, shape, or form.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying you've grown up, but I'm saying that when I grow up, that's as close as I will get.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Well, as always, my friend, it is a pleasure to be here with you and have a lovely chat here before Cold Waves weekend.
Yeah, then that's right. You are getting to go to Cold Waves, and that's going to be exciting.
Yes.
I'm super jealous, and I expect lots of pictures.
There will definitely be that, and hopefully we're going to get some interviews on the scene with some of the people playing and get to talk to them and just get to do goth summer camp and see everybody from all over the interwebs that I don't get to see on the day-to-day basis.
So for those of you that are like, wait, Ken's not been on Subculture Talk before, Ken and I actually did a fantastic interview back last year in September, almost a year from now, PJCon, where Ken talked all about Sounds and Shadows and promoting yourself. So if you haven't seen that video, you should check it out.
That was a lot of fun. I remember I was at my dad's or something, so I was on like his paisley couch.
Yep.
And it was a different, but it was fun. Hanging out at Dad's house, talking with you in my PJs.
In your because it was PJCon.
Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about some things therefore, but one thing I didn't get to, which has become kind of a subculture talk staple now, what I like to call the supervillain origin story. So, Ken, everybody knows that you make goth music and you write about goth industrial music, but how did you get involved not just in that, but more importantly, in even listening to it? What got you into this scene to begin with?
I mean, I think there were a couple big moments, but a story I've told before, and one that I think is a big one, is it was vampire role-playing games. It was Vampire the Masquerade.
Hell yes.
Yep. When we were in junior high, we would play this game by a game producer called White Wolf that was Vampire the Masquerade. And in the beginning of the book, it would kind of have this list of to set the scene for your dark adventure. You should try these bands playing in the background to create the world of darkness. And it was Bauhaus and Sisters of Mercy and The Cure and Joy Division. And some of those I knew, some I didn't. But from that, I kind of started looking them up. And then I knew them for sure. And the minute I heard it, I was hooked. And some girl broke up with me and done me wrong, and then I sat in my car smoking clove cigarettes and listening to First, Last, and Always, and the rest
as
is
you should. That is like the quintessential goth origin story right there.
Looking back, I think it's very likely that maybe I probably did her wrong more than seemed that way at the time, but let me tell you, in my car with First, Last, and Always on, it was all her fault.
I don't think it gets more goth origin story than that. Damn.
It was pretty goth, yeah.
Yeah, hang it up, guys.
A guy in a trench coat and some boots from the Army Navy surplus store in a black planet, black world.
All right. Yep. Interview's over. We're good. We're set. Woo. So I do have to ask, did you actually own music from the Succubus Club? Which,
Yeah, I think
yeah.
so at some point. I definitely came up on that. I think the other one, what I don't always tell this part of the story, but I had a uncle that was my mom's youngest brother of five. That my uncle Steve that kind of took me under wing and was the coolest uncle and played us New Order and the Cure and took us to raves and got us into techno and early shows like the first couple Lollapaloozas. And honestly, if it wouldn't have been for my Uncle Steve, I might have really sucked. So props to Uncle
Yeah,
Steve.
thanks, Steve.
Yeah, that he kind of opened me up to that, or else who knows, maybe I'd be really into fantasy football or some shit. I have no idea, but Uncle Steve.
I can't even imagine that.
Hey, I did play fantasy football. I used to always laugh because I played Dungeons and Dragons a lot and White Wolf, and I'd have other friends that I'd watch football with and play fantasy football with, and I always found it funny they'd make fun of each other. And I'm like, you guys realize
You're the
it's
same
literally
people.
the same game.
Yeah.
Like we're killing orcs or we're pretending like we own a football club, but at the end of the day, you're a 27-year-old man playing make believe. So
There is so much clippable stuff from this interview, and we're like 7 minutes in.
yeah.
And we've got a couple folks in chat. Jennifer O'Jenny calling us two of her favorite people, which is aw. And of course, Diana of MTV TV.
Love Diana.
Yeah, just
I'll be talking to her before too long.
yeah, I know. I got you first though. That made me feel better.
Yeah, it's true.
So
You always remember your first, Pat. You always remember your first.
Sometimes, unfortunately.
That's true too.
So, all right. So, you did the whole. You got into the music because of.
Because I needed
vampire.
better settings for my,
Yeah.
vampire clubs. Yeah.
So then, how did you go from that to actually making the music?
I mean, it wasn't far behind. I was pretty intuitive from about 13. I was never going to throw 4 touchdowns in a game or hit 3 home runs. And if I ever wanted girls to notice me, I should probably learn to play guitar. So I started pretty early with an acoustic around a campfire and doing it. And then we converted that in high school into a band called Antisocial.
Ooh.
And we had t-shirts that said Antisocial, and underneath it said one of our lyrics, "If I thought I could care any less right now, I'd try."
Oh my God.
We were super edgy. We got thrown out of a 4-H fair for being too edgy. So
Oh
yeah, that was
that should have been your next t-shirt.
Exactly.
Antisocial, too edgy for 4-H.
So yeah, that was and I was in that that band with my kid brother, Jim. So that was real exciting. And then I moved to Kalamazoo for college and did a couple different things, but eventually I found Nick and Mouse and we started the first incarnation of Amaranth then.
And so my understanding is kind of like me. You took some time off from it and then came back to it.
Yeah, like 18 years or so, something like that.
Just a small vacation.
A little, we hiatus with, to put some material together.
So what made you want to come back, though?
Other bands better than me. No, it was that. It was, I kind of, I don't know, got talking to Josh and I met Colin and we became fast friends and kind of just said, hey, there's actually music that's inspiring me again. Let's go take a stab at playing something. And it turns out after 18 years, I had gotten a lot better. And Colin was really, really good and had a great studio. And Josh was always good. And so we kind of just got together. And it turns out when you're 40, you have a lot more interesting things to write about than when you're 20.
Although when you're 20, you think everything you do is interesting.
I surely did. And I was definitely wrong, but I was sure that everything I was doing was the most important thing anyone was doing.
So you got together with new people. What made you decide to still call it Amaranth? Like,
there was debate about that in the beginning, but at the end of the day, it was Josh and I who were a part of Amaranth, original members. And we wanted to play some of the old songs because, we went back and heard the first CD that we did back in the 90s, and they were good songs, but they weren't what they could be. And so that's kind of what made us say, let's pick this up and finish what we started a little bit. Some of the songs off of Spreading the Charred Remains of Hope,
which is playing in the background right now.
Yeah, from 2018, were old Amaranth songs that we brought out of the closet and dusted them off and redid in a new form. And I reworked some of the lyrics so that they weren't just vague, edgy stuff and actually made some sense.
Well, so that's actually a thing that I have always enjoyed about Amaranth. Although before we go further in the interview, I have to ask, because like talking with you says one thing and then your Bandcamp says another. Is it Amaranth or the Amaranth?
It is. So when we started as Amaranth, there wasn't some Scandinavian nu metal band that had extreme popularity. But nowadays that is the case. So we became the Amaranth because Bandcamp hadn't been invented back when we were just Amaranth.
So until you go back in time and invent it.
Exactly. Full circle.
Oh man, we got tons of fun happening in the chat now. A bunch of people saying hi. Sober Stenographer, Bruce Nullify.
Oh, Bruce, yeah.
Yep, in the chat.
Orcus Nullify.
Yeah. And Sequential Zero.
Mm-hmm.
And Atom Bomb also sending the bats.
Yeah. Love DJ Atom Bomb.
So.
His mustache is a force of nature.
Oh my. So much jealousy of that mustache.
I mean, I've had that ironic mustache and waxed it and everything, but I don't have the face for it the way he does.
Not a lot of people do.
Perfectly fits that mustache.
Well, I mean, there's an aesthetic that not everybody can get, and he's definitely got it. And
I've got more of like Tom Selleck that put twisty crap on the end of his, right, but like thick and bushy, where his is just a streamlined butterfly the whole way. Do you want to come be on the internet?
Oh boy, do I get to see a kitty?
That's Lilith.
Hi, Lilith.
That's the new baby.
Oh, she's adorable. Wow, so many things that I can talk about now, and all I've got is like, oh, look, cats. Yay. So one thing that, we were talking about cleaning up the lyrics and making them not just about being edgy, but that's actually kind of a thing that I really like about Amaranth is that you've got, songs like, Miami Flights and Ninja Fights and Taco Dip.
Yes.
Thighs.
We were quite silly. Yes. We were quite ridiculous.
Thighs, which is a wonderful love song about sex. I love that song. But then you've also got some stuff that like I feel like more bands need to come out and say. I mean, a perfect example and a song that got you a lot of popularity on Subculture Shock, Noxious, where you called out just every man in the goth scene, including yourself. Yeah, like just every male in the goth scene, and just like, hey, quit being fuckboys.
Right. We're better than this,
Yeah.
my dudes. It's not even hard. The bar is ankle high
Yeah.
of what it would take to be a decent guy in 2022. And if you're not doing it, it's all on you, because it's really not asking much to be a decent dude in 2022.
No, I mean, God, we could really go into that. And honestly, you know, I was going to ask more about lyrics, but I have to stop now and say that that's another thing that I've really appreciated about you, is that you are like the ultimate in like goth best friends to the scene, in that you are willing to lift everybody up when they are doing well, but you are also willing to call people out when they need to do better. And
That's
even
called being friends. Like,
yes.
if you really are friends with someone, you should be able to look them in the eye and say, dude, you're fucking up. And I'm telling you this from a place of love because I care about you. In the same way as when someone does something good, you need to celebrate that in equal measure too. Like, to me, that's just what being friends is. If you aren't in a place where you can look your friend in the eye and say, this behavior is not okay, I'm not okay with being around you while you're doing it, I don't think you really are friends. If it's too fragile where you can't do that, to me, that's a requisite of friendship.
Yeah. I think that's one of those things that, you know, you mentioned about when you get to be in your 40s, you finally have something to say, because
Mm-hmm.
that's a lesson you've hopefully learned by that point.
Right. Hopefully. Not always, but hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, and that's the thing, is that you're willing to the people that haven't learned those lessons, you just go, hey, listen, this is your chance. I love you enough to tell you to shape up your behavior, and if you can't do that, like,
I mean, that's the other
deuces.
thing that I've learned in my 40s, is that my company is precious. And
They don't call
uh,
you Precious Ken for nothing.
exactly. And I have plenty of people in my life that are extremely important to me that, like I said, are ready to jump over that ankle high bar. And if
Yeah.
you decide that you're not one of them, I don't need yet another person in my life. You can just go until you work that out. So like you said, by the time you're 40, I pretty much have the demand that you've gotten to that point in your evolution. And if you haven't, uh, I need to throw you back in the lake like
Mm.
a fish that isn't long enough to be, and just let you grow a little more on your own.
Wow, what a great metaphor. I was just imagining you tossing
You don't get
someone on
enough
like,
goth fishing metaphors. That's
no.
the problem these days.
Oh no! You know what I want now? I want a Ken Magerman Sounds and Shadows, like Sounds and Salmons, fishing show. Like,
I think that would be cool. I mean, even just to do our regular thing, but Pat, you and I, we go out on a boat, with a sixer and some bottles of water, and we hang out there and kind of like Tom Waits or something. We
yeah.
just talk music and
Oh,
cast
dude.
lines, and that would be a great show. I'd
Abs-
watch that
I
show.
would watch the hell out of that. I mean, the main reason you go fishing is to drink beer and talk shit. So like,
Exactly, exactly.
although I don't think you and I could really talk shit if we tried. For those of you that are not prone to our personal Facebook feeds, Ken and I actually tried to have a pretend beef at one point and couldn't do it because we kept complimenting each other.
It's true. It's true. Like I said, nobody ever should get on my bad side because it's a scary, dangerous place. But luckily for the world, you have to really intensely F up to get on it.
So
Otherwise, I just can't be bothered to tear anybody down.
right, I feel like that's the way that it should be. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So getting back to talking about the lyrics, I know that there's a couple of schools of thought about this. What do you say to the people that say that like goth music is supposed to overall be serious, and you can't have these serious and silly songs at the same time?
I would say that, have you ever seen people dressed goth? Um, if you're wearing frilly cuffs and like, a giant hat with a feather coming out of it and, some really extra over the top eyeliner, and you're reading Byron from a leather bound tome and taking yourself seriously, like, I think you missed a lot of the fun and point of being God. And I guess I feel like lyrics should be taken with the same grain of salt. I also think that, like, I don't know, that's how I tend to write. I've talked with Brian Gopner about this of uh
We had a
God,
similar conversation.
yeah.
Yeah.
Who's somebody that I look up to because of their humor, or, like Rodney Anonymous of Dead Milkmen, was a big influence on me, or Weird Al, or things like that. And we have songs that are important to, like, talk about real things, like you said, like Noxious or whatnot. But part of the human experience is being able to laugh at yourself too. And to me, that should be part of the songs you're writing, is all aspects of kind of your experience and what you see. And part of that has got to be being able to laugh at yourself, or how do you just get through the day? Because humans are ridiculous.
I mean, anyone that's ever seen anybody naked just
Right.
knows we've got a lot to laugh at here.
I
So
mean, just all that stuff. I mean, everything that happens of these electronic fat sacks firing synapses at us in a giant robo meat suit. I mean, the whole thing is really silly.
so the flip side of that then is you've got a lot of people that mostly get into goth music for, like the songs about uh, bats and fire
Yeah,
and
because the world is cruel and promises get broken.
right. But then they get upset when you write songs like Noxious or do things like give proceeds towards Ukrainian funds and say that the
Right.
politics shouldn't be a part of the music.
Politics are definitely a part of music. Politics have always been a part of music. This is what Joe Strummer trained us for, you know? And I don't know. I think that's ridiculous. And I know you and I have had this talk before, but I don't know if this was always as true because there wasn't the internet and there wasn't this spotlight. But I think it's a small ask that our artists of 2022 can meet the basic requirement for being a decent human being and write good songs. There's just too much music out there in the world to not set that bar as part of it. And so I think this is important. And I appreciate when people that do music and art tell me about important and good things that they believe in, and then act upon that. I find that sexy.
Oh. So in that case, then, gonna kind of put you on the spot here. But are there any artists out there that you think are really doing a good job of that right now, being particularly sexy when it comes to singing about it and also exemplifying it?
Sure. I mean, I could think of a bunch. I mean, there's a lot of that going out. Recently, I know one that came up with Riveting. The Joy Thieves in Anya, in particular, Ayatoya, just did a freaking banger cover of Pat Benatar. That, this is the second time they've done this where I thought a song was truly, like, sacred. Like, don't ever cover that song. No one is ever going to be able to do anything new with that song.
Yeah.
And they did Love is a Battlefield to raise money for, to me, what has to be one of the biggest issues on the ballot right now and people need to really listen to. There is a genuine attack on the right of women to handle their medical decisions about their bodies in whatever fucking way they choose. And frankly, nobody else needs to even be a part of that discussion. And somehow we've jumped back to 1950, and that isn't the case for everyone everywhere. And it's scary that this happened. And so they are standing up and doing the tribute, and there's other Bellhead, there's a bunch of other people on that compilation that I really like, but just stepping up and saying that loud and proud, and it needs to be brought front and center and talked about, because frankly it really helps me out a lot in the goth scene, because when I see comments on some of the posts that they do, it helps me weed out by pre-blocking people on Facebook before I accidentally meet them later in life and then have to have a very awkward conversation. I just block them before I ever get to know them.
So that actually, we are going in directions that I never realized we were going to go. But if I can have this conversation with anybody, it's with you. Anybody who checks out Subculture Shock knows that I have basically just turned into a raging leftist the longer I am alive. And so I have said something, and I would like your opinion on this, if you believe this is true or not.
Okay.
I do not believe that you can be socially conservative and be a goth.
Yeah.
Truly. I know you don't like to regulate what is and is not goth.
No, it's I think that there's some truth to that, but to me, I do think that there can be a spectrum to conservatism in the same way as, liberal ideas and leftist. And, I'm actually, I don't know, I guess I've been pushed because the needle has been pushed to the point where to be a Republican at this point, you pretty much have to be like a stark raving lunatic. But I don't know that it was always that way. And I'm not against people. I might not agree with it, but I'm not against people who say, hey, I think more decisions need to be made at the state and city level in terms of politics and overarching, watching us and whatnot, and laws that apply the same way to someone in California as they do in Wyoming, who have very different lives. I understand if someone is coming at it from that standpoint, and I think that someone can be a decent person and be able to have real conversations and still be conservative. I think the problem is that the loudest voices on the right now are the crazy ones, and not people willing to have a discussion or to be moderate or give points. There just aren't that many of anymore. And I guess that's true a little bit on both sides, that things are very polarized at this point.
Sure.
And not enough people are willing to just stop and listen and think about something from somebody else's point of view. But then again, you also run into the thing of kind of like you're talking about. Frankly, when it comes to, say, a woman's right over her own medical care, my point of view doesn't fucking matter.
Yes.
My point of view doesn't have any bearing on that discussion. My point of view can go fuck the fuck off. And I think that's the thing that a lot of times in conservatism now is getting lost, is that they think their point of view or their God or whatever is relevant to that conversation, when it isn't, because it doesn't affect them and it isn't about them.
So a couple of comments from chat. Adam Bomb saying that Republican punk is an oxymoron. And then Sober Stenographer kind of jumping in on that, saying that it was such a bummer that John Lydon went full idiot mode.
I mean, John Lydon was always that's one of those things, I like a lot of punk rock, like the Clash, the Damned, things like that. But the Sex Pistols were always a boy band designed to sell jeans by a disgusting, horrible human being in
Woo!
Malcolm McLaren. Like, I
Oh,
mean, I don't ever think of them as punk rock or a part, they were a bought and paid for formulated thing. And John Lydon was always kind of a little bit in that vibe in order to sell jeans to kids.
Jesus, man, going for the throat here.
And was that too hot a take? I'm
Oh
sorry.
no, it was beautiful. I love it. I'm here for it. Another comment from Adam Baum. One of my friends said once that once you're on this side of deviant, you don't get to point fingers.
I like that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Just in general, judging somebody else until you're freaking perfect has never been one that's really interested me a lot. I've always been able to maybe not agree with somebody, maybe tell them, hey, look, if you're going to behave in this way, I'm not into it and I don't want to be around you. That's my personal choice.
I guess as someone that is non-binary, and is getting married, getting married to a trans man, it's one of those things that I'm kind of like, yeah, there are certain things that we can agree to disagree on. There are certain points of view that I don't have to understand, but if you want to go around saying that I'm not, like, my identity isn't valid and I'm not a real person and I shouldn't have the same rights as you, I feel like that's the point when your opinion doesn't matter anymore. Right. On that subject anyway. On that subject,
I think the other aspect of that is when it comes to things like that, regardless of what you believe, if you choose to spend time with somebody, if you choose to invite them in your life and have them, they matter that much to you, then if they ask you to do something because it matters to them and it's important to them, if you actually were their friend, you would do it. To me, that just seems like a layup. That seems pretty simple. You don't have to change your core beliefs. You don't have to. If you care about this person and want them in your lives and they say it's important to me that you refer to me in this way, then either you do it or you're not their friend.
It's interesting, actually, because that works in reverse, too, which is something that you were saying earlier about your time being precious and who you are being precious, is that if someone says to you, hey, Ken, I want you to tolerate my wanting to force women to get abortions, and you can't do that, you were never their friend, and that's okay.
That's the same. I'm like, hey, look, if this is the hill that you want to die on, it's not a road I can travel with you. So namaste, good luck to you, but peace.
Yeah.
And I don't feel bad about that. I mean, I don't even necessarily, if somebody really believes that, like they just truly in their heart of hearts believe that Sky God with a white beard and a robe is calling all the shots, like that, then okay, that's great for them. But like, you can't ask me to take that journey with you. I don't think of them as like, I just can't be a part of it.
Wow. I think this is the most political I have ever gotten on this show, and I appreciate you taking that journey with me.
Yeah, we haven't even like plugged my stuff yet.
No, we haven't. But so let's talk about that now, because speaking of speaking of the getting a lot of opinions in one place. Sounds and Shadows, a little over a year ago at this point, maybe a year and a half, you decided, hey, all these people that I'm friends with that like to talk about music, let's put them all in one group and see what happens.
Right. I went old school. I brought back Facebook to the BBS bulletin board system that I think it was always meant to be.
So now that it's gone on for a while, like, what's it like to kind of be maybe even not on purpose, but be the face of one of the largest and arguably most active dark music groups on Facebook.
Weird.
Weird.
It's weird. It's weird. But also, I've come to understand there was a point where doing this was important to me. And I wanted to make this thing because there was this hole in my life, especially when COVID happened and the world was changing and people were in their house all the time. This was important to me. But somewhere along the way, I saw that it had rolled past me and gotten bigger than me. And it was important to a lot of people now. And maintaining it and maintaining the, I don't know, I sound like a prick saying this, but sanctity of it or whatever matters to more than myself. And so I've become a caretaker of this garden instead of having it be my garden.
How? So that you said that's weird, but like, is it still enjoyable?
Yeah, I still love it. That's just it. It matters a lot to me. This is important to me and to a lot of other people now. And yeah, it brings me a lot of joy. Sometimes it also can be a bit of work, but it's important work. And I think that's the other big thing is I don't mind putting in work if I feel like it's something that matters. And I don't necessarily always have that from every aspect of my life and everything that I do, where work that I do feels important. And this does. And so I think that's something I'll always make and find time for because it's fulfilling to, I don't know, not have a better word.
So that kind of brings up another point that can also be used to plug your stuff. Besides Sounds and Shadows being a Facebook group, there's also, of course, soundsandshadows.com.
Yes.
Where you started off just like trying to tell people about bands that you love, and now you've become, you and the other members of the staff have become a very influential group.
And that's weird too. But
yeah.
Yes. and that's awesome. And it's so great to think that I get to share that. And not just that people read it and think it matters and give a crap about my opinion. Or I know you were going to say and talk about at the end, like the dark scene singles chart on Sounds and Shadows.
Well, I'm going to play the top 10 from the most recent Dark Scene Signals chart after this interview. I'm going to do that live and talk about it a little bit. And I know that you kind of did the thing that I did where with Subculture Shock, where you tried to make everybody else vote for it, and it's not just your thing, but you're also writing these reviews for like what to buy on Bandcamp Day, like where you should spend your money, what music you should listen to. Have you actually managed to at least occasionally overcome the imposter syndrome, or does it constantly still feel like, man, nobody's actually going to take this opinion seriously? Why am I doing this?
I think yes, obviously there's always going to be some of that. And I think that's healthy to a point. I mean, we talk about imposter syndrome, but also the other side of that is just as ugly, where if you have unchecked ego, where like you think, if I was to think that my opinion about new music was the end all be all and everybody that doesn't agree with the bands that I like is an effing idiot, that's at least as dark a place as having those moments where you question yourself, But I do think that there are parts of it that I am good at. And one of those is my excitement is genuine. Yes. I'm really into these bands. I really care about them. And I think when people hear the way I write, even though it's not the best written in the world and there's mistakes but it is a genuine passion. And I think people can hear that. And so I think that's part of the success of Sounds and Shadows, is that people hear that, like, I am not kidding. I'm really freaking into the actors. I listen to them a lot. It's because they're amazing. And you can't fake that. And when people hear that, they're like, well, I've never heard this actor's band before, but I guess I better go check him out because this guy's really got a rocket up his ass about it. So I think it's that part I'm good at. And the other thing that I guess if I really had a skill in this biz is something like the Dark Scene Singles Chart of 2-sentence abstract taglines to describe a band. I think that is one of my gifts in this life. And maybe a longer piece, or definitely not writing or grammar, not them, but writing a flashy, catchy 2-sentence one shot of what this band sounds like. It's something that I do well.
You should be writing copy for radio. And I say that as someone who actually got paid to write copy for radio.
Sure. At the end of the day, I've always been good at sales. So whether that's a band I like, whether that's working for the bank, whether that's myself, I've always been good at taking something I believe in and convincing other people it's great.
So that kind of goes back to that, though, is that therefore, like, you know, you've danced around it. You said, well, I'm genuine about it. But but in order for you to be out there selling what you love to people, doesn't that implicitly have to mean that you are somewhat of an authority on this?
I'm an authority on what I like. And I think it's just so big now. The music world is a freaking tidal wave. It's an ocean. There's just the internet. There's so many bands, so much out there. So anybody that can narrow down the search to 20 things that maybe people might like 5 of, I guess if that makes you an authority, but sure, I can objectively say, heck, even stuff I don't like doesn't, fire my jets. I can say this is good. Hell, Rush is the most talented group of compiled musicians whose album I don't want to buy. I could objectively say that.
As a Rush fan, that is amazing. Like
that is like Rush. That's grown on me.
That's the perfect way to put it, though.
Every time I listen to, like, my brother is one of the biggest Rush fans in the world, so I would hear it a lot growing up. And I think the biggest thing for me is, when you meet like 3 people that knew each other in high school, but you met them in like your 30s, and they have these inside jokes that they laugh about, and you get that it's funny, but you can't get the joke because you weren't there. That's what Rush is. They're the inside joke that you object. You're like, I know this is funny. I just don't get it. I don't understand.
Damn. These takes are beautiful. So, Ken, I personally, like, I feel like part of what gives you the authority is that you've got the courage, because it is courage as someone that's doing something similar, and definitely dedication to regularly put yourself out there of like, here's what I like, here's my opinion, here's why I think you should listen to this. I think that gives you authority.
That's not courage, man. I'm just not thinking about it.
Well, no.
No, it's just that I don't think about things most of the time. But I guess that's a form of courage.
Sure.
Apathy or lack of thought.
I don't know, man. I feel like you've been in enough arguments with people in your life to know there are consequences to putting your opinions out there, even
True.
Positive opinions. Possibly especially positive opinions, because
These days, definitely.
there's always a jackass out there waiting to tear you down and tell you why what you love is not goth.
I've gotten into AEW wrestling in like the last 4 years. And let me tell you, if you want to go to a dark place with a positive opinion, go to like a wrestling forum. That
Oh my god.
you will go into a grease hole that you didn't know that kind of darkness existed.
Yeah, no, but that's just it's almost like, you know, it's a cliche, but I think there is a truth in it takes courage to be kind, and it takes courage to say, hey, this music is good, you should listen to it.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like there are people out there that take joy in telling you that your music taste is shit.
I mean, that's nothing new, right? I mean, and you know, in my 20s, like we talked about, the whole thing of, I don't know, like being cooler than thou and always having to, maybe, I mean, you knew that this was a jam, that Erasure was a jam, but, you know, you're 19 and you're afraid to say so because it wouldn't be cool, you know?
I just got made fun of a lot.
Yeah, I think that that's a real thing, but also when you get in your 40s, you realize life is too short to try and look cool all the time. And frankly, there really isn't much benefit or payout to looking cool all the time.
All right. So then how do you convince? Because this is something that I was talking about with Blood Dance a couple weeks ago.
I love them.
I'm
so deeply in that. That was one that, it's a few singles, but they were one of the bands when I fell in love with Mexican and Mexico City dark scene. One of the first bands that really, them, El Clan, you know, really got to me.
Yeah.
Hueco, you know, but yeah, Blood Dance. Fucking love that shit. Go check that out, everybody.
Oh yeah. All right, there you go. Ken told you to do it. Do it.
Yeah.
So I was talking about with him the other week, and talking about how really, especially with this new wave, you and I have been talking about it, about this resurgence of post-punk and goth over the past couple of years. There's been a lot of new blood coming into the scene, so you're getting a lot of these kids. To be demeaning for a second, but these people in their 20s, and you look at them, and if you could, and they might not listen to you because, let's face it, we're old.
God knows I wouldn't have listened to me.
Yeah, but if you could reach them, these people, the lifeblood of the scene, because you have to keep having new fans in order for a scene to exist. What is like a piece of advice that you could give them about being in the goth scene?
Don't care about trying to make it. Care about doing something good that you like, and it'll either happen or it won't happen. Wear your heart on your sleeve, because that's the genuineness that people actually want to hear and associate themselves with, and you end up doing a lot better doing solids for people than chopping them down and looking like local band energy is so much sitting at the back of a show talking shit about how much better you would have done for the people on stage that everybody's paying attention to. Nothing is like tiny dick local band energy more than that. And if you think that doesn't follow you around like a stinky cloud, you are greatly mistaken. Everybody wants the perfume of people lifting up everybody else in the scene and being a part of it together.
Hell yeah. So, Ken, I've been watching this interview, and I've been listening to the Amaranth, and hearing about these great communities and this great magazine that you've helped put together. Where do I find all your shit online?
Well, we've got Amaranth is on Bandcamp, and we're going to have a new album coming out called Gothamist very soon.
Bullshit! The new album's finally coming out?
Yep. It's all the way done. We've got it to send over to Pete. It is finito.
You can't see me, but I'm vibrating.
Yeah, it's just mastering at this point. And we even had like a last minute single that we added in for it that we're going to do a video for soon called I'm Keeping My OnlyFans. that is going to be very much in the taco dip, the things I do for love, or Miami Nights realm of pretty silly goth over the top.
Yes.
We're excited about that. We've got a couple of shows coming up for the first time in a couple years. One on the 28th here in Kalamazoo, Michigan, at a place called Bell's Brewery. We're doing a Halloween show there in October with two other amazing bands, one of which is the Sexy Toxins. Ooh. That are friends of mine from Kalamazoo. And if you've never heard them, look them up on YouTube, because like us, it is some of the best and funniest crap in the world. Like Adam and Becky are a husband and wife that do like, I don't know, like dark, weird disco where they play characters of like kind of this Euro trash thing, like we are Sexy Toxins and we have come to do a very sexy show for you, putting dildos upon us and playing them on the guitars. You all come back to our hot tub party where we will make the great sex. And like, it's hysterical, and their show is like that, and they're so funny. So everybody should check them out too.
I wish I lived in Kalamazoo now.
Yeah, no, they're amazing live. And then we have the Skull Festival in November in Detroit that we're going to play, and we're going to play on. I got to get this right now, but I think it's Sunday the 20th. And I know we're playing with Wingtips and this band that I really like from Detroit called the Picassos that I just found that we just did an interview with. I'll be releasing soon on Sounds and Shadows. But we're playing at a place I kind of grew up going to in this town called Royal Oak, which is like suburbs of Detroit. And it's Noir Leather, which is kind of like the sex shop that is in the middle of this like suburban town, but it was kind of the only place to go when I was growing up to get like a Joy Division or a Sisters of Mercy shirt. You know, it kind of it had whatever, it was the alternative shop, but at the same time a big part of it was a leather daddy shop, a sex shop, you know, stuff like that. And so to go back and get to play there is real exciting. So we have those shows coming up, and then as always, please go to Sounds and Shadows on YouTube and follow us and check it out, because I think our interviews give a chance for everybody to have what I have, which is a personal relationship with the bands that you love. Like when I do these hour-long interviews and really talk and dig deep and things like that, I feel like everybody who watches it gets a chance where they could go up to Jason Corbett in Actor Show or Curse Mackey or all these people and know things about them, like they could have a conversation like they were old friends, you know? And to me, I think that's one of the most important parts of what we do with these interviews in Sounds and Shadows.
And like I said, what I'm trying to be, basically. So
you are being I love your interviews. You do a great job.
Well, thank you. But
I think one of the things I really like about your interviews, Pat, is that you truly help pull forth details and facts about the music specifically when you talk to people in interviews and get people to reveal things about what the music meant to them. I feel like you have a real way of doing that is an important flavor.
All right. This is your interview, Ken. Quit buttering me up, all right? I know you can't help it, but
that's who I am.
I know, and we love you for it. There have been so many I'll tell you, we have set a record for the most heart emotes in my chat in 1 hour.
Nice.
Yeah, like there have just been so many of them. It's lovely. And the occasional star. So, All right, so Sounds and Shadows is on YouTube. You've got soundsandshadows.com for reviews.
Yep. Sounds and Shadows Facebook group for format and discussion, and the Dark Scene singles chart, and then Amaranth on Bandcamp. And it's also on, I guess, Spotify and Apple Music and all that stuff. Not that I do a lot of streaming myself. I'm pretty horrible about that. But it's all there, if you wanted to.
So yeah, I know you've got other places to be. I'm like cutting into your other interview time, but I do have to ask that since you mentioned the streaming thing. Like, do you do most of your stuff from Bandcamp? Then you tend to buy a lot of people's music more than stream it.
Yes, this is always a thing that like people are sending me music 24/7 all the time, and I always say to them, I mean, yeah, that's great. You sent me a Mixcloud or you sent me an early release or all this stuff. When I write reviews, 89% of it, unless it's somebody I know pretty well, is from Bandcamp links.
Yeah.
If you send me a Bandcamp link with a code, that's going to get added to my Bandcamp. And when I sit down on a Wednesday at 11 p.m., it's what I'm looking at when I'm going through and listening to stuff to write about. So that's what I really like. And then that's where I like to buy stuff because the money goes to the artist. I mean, sure, Spotify, I think Spotify is good for what it is. I don't like it personally, and don't use it a lot, but I got nothing against it. And I think people who get mad about the low percentage Spotify pays out are missing the point of what Spotify is. Spotify is the radio. In 1989, it's don't give your whole album to Spotify. Give 2 songs and let that be a taste that gets people into you. And then they go to Bandcamp or Apple Music or whatever and buy it. But if you're giving away the cow for free, like that's on you. Like be prepared for people to then just use your cow if you put it out there for everybody, and to me that's what Spotify is a great promotional tool to lead people back to buying your music.
This is why I'm not allowed to have a t-shirt press, because otherwise I'd be making a shirt right now that said Ken Magerman used my cow and all I got was this crummy t-shirt.
Exactly. Moo.
Hashtag moo. That's it. That's the whole interview right there. Hashtag moo.
Word.
Ken, is there anything else? Anything else that you would like to? We went all over the place for this interview. Is there anything else you'd like to drop?
We got all around. Well, coming up after this, I'm going to be working on doing a crossover with MTV TV, which again is one of the best ways that you can support and keep your finger on the pulse of new music. I mean, Sounds Shadows is a great one, but also them. And so I'm gonna talk with Adam and Diana, and Katie's gonna be there. I think that's another important thing to shout out while we're on here is I know you did an interview with Katie Needs a Life, but I could not do Sounds and Shadows without Katie. She does so much in terms of the production, helping me keep my whirlwind, like dumpster fire of a life together to like do the interviews and just in general supporting me. So I love her band. You should really check that out. Jason Corbett of Actors did the mastering for it. Colin of Amaranth produced it, and it's just a badass album. So check that out. And I think I'm trying to think of a year from now, hopefully. I'm talking with some people now, but I'm aiming for August of 2023 doing the first Sounds and Shadows Festival.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about that tonight.
I'm not going to talk about who's playing, although I've already got some hot irons in the fire, some magma hot irons in the fire.
Oof.
But we're talking about doing that for August. And I think Kalamazoo could really be a great place for this because unlike where I'm going to Cold Waves this weekend, if you want to go travel to do that to Chicago for 4 days, you're dropping $1,000 in hotel, food. Everything is very expensive. Here in Kalamazoo, we have a great venue, a great sound system, and you could get a really nice hotel room for like $75 a night. And so if we have the festival here, it might be a really fun place to travel into and get to see some of these amazing bands. And not, you could, a couple do a weekend here where you lived high on the hog in terms of food and drink and everything for probably $300 for the whole weekend. So
Vote
I
now
think
for
that's
Ken
something
Magerman.
Kalamazoo really has to offer in terms of doing a Sounds and Shadows festival.
Vote now for Ken Magerman for head of Kalamazoo, Michigan Board of Tourism.
They do sometimes call me the mayor here because of the way that I talk up Kalamazoo.
Does anybody in Kalamazoo actually call you that?
Yeah.
Okay.
That and my other big one in Kalamazoo is a goth father.
Goth father. Okay, so I keep saying that we're going to be done, but that does bring up one more question then.
Okay.
You released a couple of videos about elder goths reacting to various things.
Yeah, I got to get back and do some more of those.
Yes, they were wonderful. What do you think it means? Like, because there are a lot of us out there,
Sure.
in our 40s or more, and to be an elder goth, like, what do you think? Like, our purpose in the scene is at this point?
Wisdom. It is. It's wisdom. It's
Drop
not
of a hat, just bam, wisdom.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not to shut people out. It's not to have a pettiness about I need to get my sense of self-worth because I happen to be born first and have seen some of these bands back in the day or something, as though you get some kind of goth pension for how many years you put in or something. There's no such thing.
I wish there was.
No
I need
pension.
money.
Sure, I hear you, but there isn't. And instead, if you care about the scene and want it to grow and thrive, you need to encourage people after you to be a part of it. And the way to encourage them is not tell them they don't know shit and they don't get it and that you don't want them around. It's to do quite the opposite and say, hey, let me shut the hell up for a second and listen to what you're into. Let me listen to Witch House and genuinely have an open mind and hear it. And then after that's over, now I'm going to make you listen to the Mission. And I think that's what it's about, is having the kind of like adults or anything else. The 40-year-old person, the 45-year-old person, the 50-year-old person should be the first one to extend the olive branch, not make kids work to be allowed to come to us. That's what we need. Wisdom.
Ken, this has been an absolute blessing of an interview. Thank you.
My pleasure, my friend. Anytime.
And, well, you're definitely welcome back. So if you're watching live, up next, I'm going to be showcasing the Sounds and Shadows Dark Scene chart for August. And,
a lot of hotness on there. Check
oh,
that
my
out.
goodness. And if you haven't joined Sounds and Shadows on Facebook yet, absolutely should, because they're still taking votes for the September singles. So you get 3 votes. You can get in there. You can even suggest an artist that you don't see on there, which I think is a great aspect of it.
For the record, because I won't be talking during this part of it, shout out to Pilgrims of Yearning from Boston, who came in at #1 there, and I was so excited because Jules is just such a cool, great energy person, and really expressing a wider culture and ideals in dark scene and goth music. I love the single. I love this album, and I'm so happy that she and they won it for that month, and it is definitely an album you need to go check out that just sounds different. There's a psychedelic, witchy spiritualism about it, that has a bit of throwback and vintage, but also with very modern elements. And great album. Shout out to Pilgrims of Yearning.
Absolutely. And if you're watching on YouTube, well, there are a ton of Sounds and Shadows videos and interviews that you can check out.
Yeah.
And who knows if it's quite some time after this interview was initially done, there might even be a new Amaranth video to check out. So
I'm keeping my OnlyFans.
I'm keeping my OnlyFans. I'm really looking forward to this song so much.
You're gonna love it, my friend.
I'm gonna love it.
Genuinely filthy and weird.
I have only heard the title, and I'm gonna love it. It's like my new favorite song. Let's go.
Yeah.
So, all of you that are live in chat right now, stick around, and thank you again, Ken, and we will see you next time.
Bye, everyone.